G'day citizens, welcome to Inforunners. We thought we might this week separate our reactions so we can actually still give it to you in a very prompt manner. So we're squeezing this in just before Algared gets to work every week. So we're going to try it, see if it works. Doesn't work, we'll go back to doing it on the stream. So yeah, Algared's exhausted.
Experiment. We like to experiment, try things out.
Had to flip him back to life. No, just kidding. But yeah, he was a bit late.
It's my jab back to reality on life and home.
All right, so let's kick it over to the browser, and we're going to do this. So this week's is called Tactical Capital. So let's get into it. All right, here we go.
Last week was our inaugural Idris War Games test, and while that completed earlier this week with many lessons learned, and the ship itself is still awaiting important resource management, maelstrom, multi-crew gameplay work, and more before it'll arrive permanently in the persistent universe, we here at ISC still jumped at the chance to showcase the current artistic progress of the vehicle inside and out, as well as to enlist a few of our oldest friends in providing a sort of director's commentary to the proceedings. Here's how it went. Just a bit of camera, so hi, I'm John Brig. I'm Nick Tearsley, part of the art director for 2042 era.
Your new title.
I don't even know what I am anymore. Shall I say that? Should I say that? That'd be good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nate. I've not got a clue what I am anymore.
He's the one.
That'll go down well.
The one beef of the
Should we
week.
do that? Yeah.
Get it
Some
in there.
days I'm this.
I don't actually remember seeing this guy for. It's been ages since we've seen him. I think he's probably his biggest claim to fame would be the Avenger. Yeah, Algared, or that we remember him for. He worked on the Reclaimer as well. And I think the last time we actually saw him in a video, you correct me if I'm wrong, is when he was talking about when they had that Squadron 42 and they had that station that kind of opened up like a pedestal or petal flower. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's been a couple of years.
Station.
Yeah, that's the one. It's been a couple. Yeah, so it's been quite a while since we've seen him in a video. Anyway,
Well, the interesting thing is he's obviously been working on Squadron 42, and now he's in a show with John Crew, who does a lot of stuff with PU as well, and they're talking PU, not Squadron 42.
That's Algared. That's Algared connecting dots there, by the way. But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. No, just that's a bit smart ass story. Here we go.
Other days on that.
What do you want to be today, Nick?
I don't know what I want to be today. What should I be today? Yeah, I was the art director for the thing. There you go.
Do you want me to go first?
You can be my bloody guest, mate.
Okay. Hi, my name's John Crew. I'm the vehicle art director.
Hi, my name's Nate. I was the vehicle art director.
We've been asked today to give you a little director's commentary over the Idris that you will have seen in the PU being fought over recently. Right, so the exterior, this has had quite a few iterations over time in terms of not the shape stayed the same, but how like the breakup, the materials on it, the engine the thrusters of.
Yeah, the shapes remain pretty true. We did make amendments to the exterior.
So I can actually even think of that just even in the stuff you and I've seen over time, Algared. It started out very plain and grey. And then I remember there was a period there was a bit of green in there, like you've even seen it in game with a bit of green, and now I think it's a bit more whitey blue. So yeah, it's definitely changed over the years. You'd agree? Yeah.
Certainly changed its exterior look. There's just little things, but yeah,
definitely got more detailed as time went on.
Yeah, the greeballs have been more fleshed out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
To fit the interior in, because the number of spaces that we needed for Squadron sort of slowly increased. So it's a very tightly packed capital ship.
If you look at the original concept, it was quite a thin ship as well. It just couldn't fit everything in it.
I think my favourite feature from the original one was the hilarious flight of stairs that came down in the middle of the flight deck. Yeah, I think that was my first fix.
Then we're going to fly into the back of it, which is the way most players should normally enter the Idris. You can go in the front, but that'll be a bit.
It's getting dark now, John.
So there we go. in Squadron, there is space for 2 Gladiuses, Gladii, and there's a space for the Argo MPV at the back, but you can technically fit 3 ships in here.
Yeah, when you first land, you'll sort of notice that the exits for the hangar are generally sort of at a lower level. One of the things we do a lot of throughout the ship actually is just slight changes in elevation, even though you're on the same deck. And the general layout is fairly symmetrical, I would say. The ship, when it was first put together, was really sort of, I would say, designed from the inside out. So there was a lot of amendments on the exterior to make the interior, interior to me is always king. You spend a lot longer on the interior of the ship. So we sculpted the exterior skin around that.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
The hangar there.
Yeah.
You'll notice there are actually 3 bays, but it's still generally made for the 2. So you soon have that 3rd bay, but there is a landing pad, or that does clearly, as I was shown there were 3 Gladiuses parked in the Idris. So
actually, skip back
that answered that age-old question we debated a while ago. How many landing bays are there? How many pads are there actually? Is the question. I'll move my mic in front of my head.
I accidentally clicked right back to the start of the video, so I've lost where we're up to. Anyway, I'll try and catch back up to where we're. Here we go.
That exterior, I mean, there is no breathing room. It is like a bit of a ship. So we sculpted the exterior skin around that. If you were to hide that exterior, I mean, there is no breathing room. It is like a bit of an engineering masterpiece, to be honest.
I actually thought a long time ago this would be one of the most polished, detailed ships in the entire game, because it is the hallmark for Squadron 42, and it's one of the reasons why I ummed and ahed about buying or not buying one, because I knew how refined it would be.
I think in terms of capital ships, it's the.
But there are pro to cons to that though, right? Because lots of people know it, and some of the things that are put into it are more like single player things that are put into a ship. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. Obviously, over time we'll find out whether it's like the one I always think of is what they did with the Hammerhead as an example, Algared, with all the stuff up the front that was clearly built for some kind of cinematic thing in Squadron 42, but it doesn't really do anything. And hopefully, I hope given time, they'll come back and actually make that functional so you can actually kind of ram other ships in Squadron 42. It's the same thing here. I'm just worried there's going to be little layovers that are just this thing that is constantly in your ship, but you're never going to utilize that space for that feature in a multiplayer game. Yeah,
and I think part of that comes through in what I was saying at the beginning. After their Idris war game, part of that was to work out how to get that multiplayer gameplay in and fine tune it and get it, and make it so it was not just the single player game ship, but also the multiplayer game ship.
And let's hope they succeeded. I think they will. But it was always just, again, I didn't really need a kind of massive combat ship. And let's be honest, there's you and I have been around long enough that we know people that have all got one. So, mix and match type of thing. So,
a number of people have got one. A number of people got a javelin, I find it.
And it's still earnable in game too.
Still earnable in game, but you'll still find there's still so many people have got them. And if they really are raid ships, they're ships made for the idea of having a group and doing stuff together with a group. But anyway, let's continue.
Yep.
This is where the MPUV hangs from the ceiling.
Skydiving also.
I've watched many people.
Do you remember what I was saying to you? Me and I were talking about that there weren't many ships that have like bottom hang'em doors. This is one of the only ones I can think of where it kind of drops out almost alien style out the bottom of the ship, and I want to see a few more ships like this, Algared, where you can imagine a fighter or something where the ships literally drop out the bottom, so it's more of a quick deploy, but then on the other side is it's a lot harder to kind of pick them back up.
It's harder to retrieve. But this also goes into what we talked about with the Starfarer and the the MISC series, and possibly having drop down plants. We've all got it, but it's actually already in game. That functionality that you'd need for that is in game, because you've got the MPUV hanging from the roof of the Idris and deploying.
Yeah, and you'd have to assume that it's a similar system to kind of docking with the Connie. I'm just assuming that whatever it's docking with kind of lowers down and then you kind of fly up and dock with it, and it kind of pulls you up into the interior of the ship. But again,
100%.
yeah. So it's the same type of thing. So again, now having that tech in game for 2 ships, I'd just like to see it utilized on more.
I think we will. I think, you know, that's the type of thing we'll see. But anyway, I think that's exciting.
I do too. And it's just it's a style that we haven't seen a lot of. So you know, I'd like to see more of it. And again, I don't know why, but maybe it just didn't pop out that way. But we'll see. All right.
Yeah.
Accidentally fall out the bottom of the Idris in atmosphere at that hole. So don't do that.
Or if you want to recreate the alien dropship scene, it's pretty cool.
See what I mean? 5 by 5.
The gravity room, which was originally upstairs. We had to shift things around through the process again, taking inspiration from, you know, real world scientific areas. That whole room actually closes into its own cylinder. You have to sort of open the door to sort of get in, and you can close it behind you. It's quite a trip.
That's cool.
And
I'm trying to think of what sci-fi TV show that reminds me of. I know there's lots to do with spheres and time travel and stuff like that, but that's what it reminds me of. Just can't think of a particular one off the top of my head. Right, keep going. Yep.
For all intents and purposes, unless you're going to your bunk or you're going to a very specific areas like the briefing room or the gravity room, which you've just seen there are no dead ends. It was put together when I was on the ship and originally sort of designed it. It was very much sort of focused around multiplayer combat at the time, and you know, a good multiplayer map is you've always got options. You've always got at least 2 options at every corridor, every room.
You're constantly flowing around it.
No dead end. So yeah, as you can see.
I actually had a bug this morning come through about the writing on the wall being shorthand.
Oh dear.
So it's spelt incorrectly.
Oh.
I was like, no, it's not. It's intentional choice.
Yeah.
So we've got the ATC room, which overlooks the hangar, which is obviously very useful for being an ATC. We'll come back later to the other side to see what's in there. There's a lot of decks to the Idris.
Yeah. There's a sub deck in the Argo, which you would have seen, or the utility vehicle, I should call it. You've got your main deck. This is the sort of the main symmetrical area, and then through the heart, I would say the center of that sort of floor plan is all of the, I would say, business side of the room. So obviously you've got your mess hall here.
I'm just noticing too, Algared, they seem to be using a bit of color to break things up. So they, if it's not color, as in like texture, it's also lighting. So if you look at those last few scenes, so you got the blue bit down there, you had the yellow part you're coming up through here, so you can almost tell your decks. Yeah, without even really thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I know I've talked about in the past, like with lighting. They've talked about the way they do lighting. They've talked about even the way they color decks. So you get the more industry decks, one color, and then you get your living areas a different color. And again, you're just seeing that come through in this ship as well. So
yeah, and it's going to be important on bigger ships because obviously it's harder to navigate. The bigger it is, the harder it is to remember, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's all of the, I would say, business side of the room. So obviously you've got your mess hall here.
It's a chow line. Don't talk about the chow line. It's
here roast lamb is still on special.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke, by the way. Sleeping quarters.
This is for your general crew for the ship. The bunks have shutters on them for a bit more privacy.
With inbuilt home entertainment system.
So this is 2 mirrored, I guess.
Other thing I'm noticing is because I've spent a lot of time in the Reclaimer, there actually is stylistic cues between the two. But this almost looks newer than the Reclaimer, and they don't have a lot of the soft padded stuff that the Reclaimer has. But like the beds, for example, almost identical. As you'd expect in a manufacturer shared. Art style.
It's hallmark to the idea of doing ships as a family, isn't it?
Yep.
Kind of just ticks that box as to why you do ships as a family, because you look at the ships from the same manufacturer and you go, I recognize that, I recognize that, I recognize that, and yet totally different.
Solo cabins. The pilots get their own little area at the end,
which are about to get a little bit bigger, but you didn't hear that from me.
So the version that you're seeing here is taken from a point in time on Squadron recently, but there are lots of little tweaks that we'll talk about in the future to deliver more of the Idris. One of them, the missile room, is a big one that's still to come that is not available here at this time. But there's, like Nate said, lots of other little tweaks as we get closer to shipping Squadron that we'll be making.
Again, inspirations with regards to archetype for Aegis. You can see there's a strong inspiration from some of my favorite 1980s movies through here. I like to see, material breakup, introduce textures, leather where we can do to make it feel a bit softer and more.
That literally is the padded thing on the Reclaimer walls, but a different texture. That just goes back to what I was saying before.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the same 3D object, but it just changes it completely. But that's kind of cool. I like that. Anyway,
inviting as a good habitational area should be, and it's different for different ships, right? But when you're designing a capital ship, it kind of needs to tick all of the boxes. From a putting the ship together point of view, everything is modular. So you'll notice probably in the PU now a lot of these elements are reused in some of the Aegis ships, simply because we try and put the ships together in a modular fashion. And the bigger the ship gets, the more modular it needs to be. You really want to avoid doing too much unique stuff because it will hammer your video memory.
Got a quick question. There is no medical ship from Aegis, is there? I just kind of sit there realizing, I wonder if we're going to get one in the future, because that would allow them to reuse all this. I don't think there is one.
Well, there is a med bay in the Javelin. They're the only med ship I can think of in Aegis.
That's true.
They're medical bays.
Interesting. Maybe we'll see a smaller one in the future. We'll see.
Because this was I would say it's the first capital ship we've done. It is the first, isn't it? Yeah. And it was really sort of, genesis of, this was put into production actually around the same time as the Retaliator, many years ago. And it was at that time that we started to establish, a really good understanding of how we want habitational areas to feel and look, feeling being a prominent feature. Engineering, again.
Just to add to that, the Retaliator was the first big ship that ever went in the game, then the Starfarer. So that's, oh man, I can't remember the year.
And length.
Yeah, it's really old. Like really. I'm sure someone in the comments will leave the year, but it'll have to be almost 10 years ago at this point. But yeah.
Completely different. You got the technology side of it and the medical side of it. So they became the sort of like 4 style guides, I would say, that became the springboard for a lot of the other ships to sort of follow on.
So medical star guide and all that. So that we may see this later, like I was saying before. But it's interesting that they also group them into different areas of ship, and I wonder how much that's carried on to other ships. So like, yes, there's an Aegis medical look, but then they mention the different areas as well. So I just think that's interesting.
But as I was just showing that, they showed the prep room, and they showed the medical room, and I thought, gee, that reminds me of the Carracks med bay,
and the medical.
Hang on,
and it had also hole outs to the 890 med bay. You got the prep room there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then so it just reminded me a little of the Carracks room and the 890s room.
Yeah. All right. I've just realized, Algared, I might have done the cardinal sin all the way through this video. I didn't do the filter off for the sound. Oops. All right, hang on, I'll do it right now. Not come prepared. See, I've normally got chat to tell me to do this stuff. Right. So if the sound's been garbage up until now, I do apologize. Sorry.
You see a lot of similar stuff in the Hammerhead, which actually uses a lot of the Idris kit as well. And different areas have their different technical feeling.
You'll notice here when you come in through the centre of the med bay, for example, there are very, very, very little right angles. When you look at the floor plan, for example, it generally dollies off at 45-degree angles or 60-degree angles. I don't like right angles in floor plans. Things need to flow. As you can see there, you're going to get a right angle when you come out of a door. There's not much you can do about that. But yeah, and it's all interweaved. You'll notice there's lots of windows that look outside. There's lots of windows that look back into the house.
That skylight, that's what I want in the MSR, by the way, Algared. That they promised us, but anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Hangar. So we're not doing any cheating escape pods here.
Yeah, right at the front of the ship now. So this is the manned turret at the front, the big one up top. And then lots of escape pods here for everyone that's in the sort of upper front half if things go sideways and you need to get off the ship. So going back down the starboard side, have to do the bath sim head of port and starboard.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned that, John, because navigation has been a little bit of an issue. So these corridors that you're running around at the moment, they're going to have a lot more of an injection of colour in the future. So you'll have a much better understanding of whether you're going forwards or backwards or whether you're on the left or the right. Worth noting as well, like all the spaces that you're seeing are completely undressed. There are, you know, tens of thousands of entities that end up on top of what you're seeing for Squadron because it needs to feel more lived in, it needs to tell that story. So it's kind of bare bones seeing it this way, which is kind of strange for me at the moment.
Yeah, it was very strange when we were getting this ready for the PU to take off all those layers and sort of see it in a state that we've not seen.
Plus also we're not seeing it with NPCs.
Yeah.
When you see this with NPCs and, you know, people walking around carrying out their duties, engineers doing their things at panels or whatnot, it feels lived in, it feels alive. But, you know, hopefully when it goes into the PU, there'll be plenty of people running around anyway, which will make it feel very similar for you guys.
Hamster balls.
You want to get buff? Go to the gym.
I don't know what we had there originally opposite the ATC. Was it? It was the pilot?
It was the pilot ready area, but we moved the pilot ready area down to the same level as the hangar so you can get your gear, scramble out as quickly as possible rather than getting your gear,
run down a flight of stairs,
falling down 2 flights of stairs, and then sort of hobbling into your ship with a broken ankle.
See that's an area I'd question, like, why would I use the gym in a multiplayer? Like, unless they're going to add some kind of buff thing for sitting there to work out, but I just...
You remember I did talk about if you repeat an activity, it will have some minor impacts that maybe using a gym does.
But how fun is it to sit on a treadmill for 5 minutes to get a buff? You see what I'm trying to... So, I don't know, maybe in the future, I don't know, maybe they changed it a little bit or something, but yeah, that's like I said, that doesn't really translate to a multiplayer one. But I'm just giving an example, but yeah.
Yeah.
Going further back. We're sort of halfway, 3/4 of the way back.
Yeah, you got your sort of, I think...
The crossover point here.
Yeah, you got 2 crossover points on the hangar. Now you're going to sort of come through, and this is where a lot of the asymmetry comes in, although the footprint is sort of similar. You'll come...
That corridor, so... See how moody it is, but it's not really realistic. Like, it would not be lit that way generally in a real environment unless it was in low power mode or something like that. So again, these are different things between a game and real life. But yeah, like, you think about your real life. When you go into a military type of, well, not everyone goes into military things, but you know what I mean? When you go into an area, they're usually well lit. They're not dark and dismal, and that's pretty damn dark.
This is where a lot of the asymmetry comes in, although the footprint is sort of similar. You'll come through. On one side, you've got Brig, which is where all the naughty people go, and we have a lot of naughty people in the game. There's a security office in there, and on the opposite side of that is, basically the opposite side of the ship, is the armory, which you'll see in a little bit.
Big escape pods, so big shared ones rather than individual pods. You might have seen, as we've gone around, some big red signposted rooms. They, I believe, have EVA airlocks in them as well as sort of maintenance storage areas, so all signposted so you know in a hurry where to go. Then the main briefing room.
Main briefing room, again, integral to Squadron. This is where you're going to get your mission briefings and so on. It's a big ship.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Like I say, there's a lot crammed in.
Yeah.
Now we're in the opposite side to where the Brig was. So this is the armory and shooting range.
Quite a bit of inspiration from RoboCop. Yeah, as you can probably all tell, I'm a bit of an 80s buff when it comes to the movies. When I had to do things for real, actually build things, it visually makes quite a big difference to me as a visual kind of guy.
That
he's an 80s. I want to know where the flux capacity.
Yeah. I'm actually just loving the small little details, like this little bit of paper moving and stuff like that just breaks up the environment, because it's like in that old, like you'd have a bar and there'd just be that fan spinning on the thing, like just something that draws the eye and pulls your attention and stuff like that. Yeah, I do like that type of thing, breaking it up.
Firing range area is another one of the areas that has changed around a bit over time, because it was an all-in-one
I think it was on the other side as well.
Yeah.
I think we flipped it. And then we got into the logistics of, you know, what happens if you take your gun away from there? What's going to happen to you as a player? So there was, you know, 'cause you're not supposed to walk around a military ship with a firearm in your hand, basically. So, yeah, lots of minor changes there, more for the social experience.
So this is above the rear of the hangar, not all the way at the back, because it has two lifts that go down to, or one lift that goes down to the... Two?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's one each side that connects with the hangar. So if you're bringing in supplies or getting ready to go out on a long journey into the depths of space, you can, you know, utility vehicle drops the cargo off and you can load up pretty efficiently.
Add a little, I don't know if you saw it, the little tracks too for like a little crane on the roof too, Algared, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit Galaxy RSI.
Helping.
Yeah.
Decontamination area before you get into the, what would be the engine room.
Why would, just tell me what your thought process, why would you need to decontaminate to go into an engine room?
Very sensitive, finely tuned equipment.
Man, it must be. It's the only thing I can think of. But yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll find out in time. Like a law reason or something, you know?
Yep.
Very different feeling, like we talked about, compared to the rest of the ship.
Yeah, it's the thing with Aegis, we sort of looked at a lot of real-world scientific, I would say, you know, hydrogen colliders, nuclear reactors. CERN was a big sort of inspiration with a lot of the paneling and general sort of feel. And that's continued in the Gauntlet and a lot of the other Aegis ships that you'll see.
And then there's a...
Wait. He said the Gauntlet?
He did.
Is that a ship we've never heard of before, or is that a name? Is that like the name of another Idris or something like that?
It could be the name of Idris because that's a weapon. I know Idris is named after places.
Javelins.
It would have to be a
javelin are named after weapons.
javelin.
All right, maybe he's talking about a javelin then. Let's hope there's not an Aegis gauntlet drop there that we got.
Aegis.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So it's either a ship, but I reckon you're right. I reckon it's a javelin. Maybe because we know there's a javelin in Squadron 42 as well, so that's probably that one. Yeah. All right.
You will have seen them dotted around in all the corridors, but there's a lot of wall panels that hold all the components. So whilst we do have some big capital size components like in the engine room, there's a lot of sort of secondary redundancy with all these extra wall panels dotted around. So if one area of the ship goes down, it's not completely scuppered. You can still route power around.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing in the original design document, John, where if life support systems went down on the rear of the ship, there was actually sort of like large bulkheads that close that section of the ship off, so the rest of the ship can survive. So again, you know, thinking about sort of multiplayer aspect, if you were to try and ambush one of these things, I think there's going to be quite a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah, those bulkheads, I think you probably will have seen some of them in the corridors, as we watch big yellow...
Orange.
Yellowy orange.
Yellowy orange, okay. The layout as well, the engine room, you'll notice, is pretty much, if you were boarding the ship from the hangar, pretty much the most well-protected room of the ship. Again, with that multiplayer feeling in mind. I think going off, do you remember Titan mode? Squadron, not Squadron, Battlefield.
Yeah.
Yep. It does remind, even the ship now he says that, it reminds me a lot of the Titan in Battlefield 20, was it 2042 or something like that? It reminds me a lot of that. The other thing I was thinking of too is how when they originally dropped that Starfarer Algared, and the Starfarer was a flying level. So this is essentially like the ongoing involvement of that, and if they can take that back now to the Starfarer, you can all of a sudden see what the Starfarer...
You can see how they'd redo the Starfarer to kind of
evolve, essentially. Yeah. Interesting. And that's Aegis as well, I just realised. So, yeah.
Really just trying to create this sort of layer up on layer.
Sorry, let me rephrase. Actually, it's MISC. I'm thinking of the Gemini, and that's why I said Aegis. My bad. Sorry.
Which is still a miss,
on
but
layer until you get to the
it's miss and Aegis, but it's mainly miss. Yeah.
engine room to make that quite difficult to ultimately disable the ship.
Like we talked about, there's a lot of flow in the interior, but there are those areas that have very distinct choke points to get to. Like the bridge is one, whilst there is multiple ways to get there, they're quite well defendable, and then the engine room is the other. So those are two areas you really don't want people getting to uninvited.
Yeah.
There's a few ways you can go up to the bridge. There's obviously this lift, but there is also a set of staircases either side. So you have these sort of tactical stations at the back, flanking each side, down on a lower level from the main bridge area.
I think thing I would say most proud of on the bridge. There's been a lot of rework done, but you'll notice here the view out. It's pretty spectacular. Removed what would be, the cross frame, which went across the front of the ship, so you got completely unobstructed views out to space. But it still feels chunky and weighty, which it needs to, which is a success.
So that was a little bit of a director's commentary on the Idris, which hopefully you'll have seen and experienced as part of the event that's been going on in the Persistent Universe recently. And as great as the ship looks in the video and the event, there's still quite a bit of work to do before we can give it to players to have for real. Things like resource network, multi-crew gameplay, all these things that make it an actual living, breathing capital ship that you want to run and own. That's pretty much it for now.
Yeah, to echo what John said, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. There's still a ways to go.
Kind of what John said there is just more like we said at the beginning, Algared, like making it multiplayer ready, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah. And it shows you there is a big difference between a single player and a multiplayer game. So yeah. All right.
With regards to sort of delivering, the ship as a whole for the PU. But I just want to give a shout out to all the teams that have been involved in working on it. I mean, the list is endless. Artists, designers, concept artists, lighting crew, social design, level design. I mean, it's huge. There is literally hundreds of people involved in delivering such an asset to yourselves, and we really hope with the limited time that you get it, that you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's people at the company that haven't touched it in some way or form over the years. It's such a big part of the experience.
Shame me on the Idris.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the Idris is a delight to behold inside and out, that it's benefited and continues to do so from years of iteration in Squadron 42, that there's still lots to be done beyond the currently fantastic art to bring the gameplay to it that it and its owners deserve, and that when all that is said and done, this is going to be one heck of an addition to the Persistent Universe. For Inside Jared Huckabee.
Inside Jared Huckabee. Whoa.
no, thank you.
Oh
no, thanks. Keep that one.
Idris, the ship you've been looking for? For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week. Some weeks you have it, some weeks you don't.
Looking forward to the memes on Reddit. That's all I'm going to say. Alrighty. Oh, there's still a little bit more.
Stupid.
June.
Yeah, I'll agree with you.
I actually saw that yesterday. It's quite good. The new one, that is. Anyway. Alright, then, Algared, that is been
Idris.
our thoughts on Tactical Capital. Yeah, it was kind of cool to get around the Idris and kind of see everything. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you guys enjoy that one? Did you not enjoy that one? I don't know. It's been one of those ships, Algared, I think you and I have probably seen evolve a lot over the years. And it is one of the bigger ones and one of the older art assets. And I think when we will really see the bearing of fruit, now you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, is when we start to see more bigger capitals come in. So what did they learn from this that they've carried on to the Polaris and eventually the Kraken when they get around to that and things like that? Because
I think the key is not just seeing them do other big Aegis capital ships, but can we see the lessons they've learned in making capital ships go across to the different families
And are they going to feel as polished as the Idris because it's had so many hands on it, like they said, or is just no other ship going to compare because it had all that work done? So yeah, I just wonder if it's a blessing or a curse. But again, there's pros and cons to all of this across the board, so we'll have to wait and see.
I think even the ships we've got, you look at the 890 jump and the Idris, which are comparable in some ways.
Yep.
And the Idris, from what they were showing there, is significantly more polished.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than the 890. Even though the 890 is pretty well polished, the Idris just leaves it.
What would you like to hear from? What would you like to hear from people in the comments below,
Algared? Did you enjoy seeing the Idris? Would you have preferred not to see it and be able to explore it and find your way in Squadron 42?
This is going to be very relevant to the episode you and I recorded earlier in the week. Not how I wanted to see the Idris, I'll just put it that way. But you guys can look forward to that one. Be out for you very shortly. From me, I just again, like, are you liking what you're seeing of the Idris? I think though there's still a little bit more to come. That multiplayer aspect I think is really important, and my biggest concerns with a lot of the Squadron 42 ships are very highlightable in this. Like, and I'll keep using that gym as an example because that's a very large area that fundamentally kind of doesn't really do anything. And it's the same in the Hammerhead and stuff like that, and that's just. That's a part of the environment of working on 2 games at once, and there'll be pros and cons to that.
It kind of also explains why often in games where you're doing ships, you don't get to walk around in a ship. There's just so much empty space.
Yeah,
it's why you become.
Yeah, so let us know your thoughts on those different things in the comments below, and anything else that you guys want to share with us. Other than that, Algared's dropped out as usual, but he'll be back. With that, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification. Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went extra mile on the credits at the end of the video. Algared, what are you going to say, sorry?
Yeah, one thing I would have liked to have seen is them talk about the differences, like the visual differences and everything else between the K, the P, and the M.
Yeah, and I think, again, like I was saying, I think we'll see those in time, and they kind of alluded to that, how they just strip a lot of the wear and tear off, and then... And now they're multiplying it and making it the multiplayer ready, and they got to colorize and all that type of stuff. So there's still more to come, which will be interesting. Hopefully they show us that over the next couple of months too. Yeah. All right then. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.